It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.
Hey, Steph, how are you?
Hey, Gary. Happy Wednesday. It's another episode of rAVe TV.
It is Wednesday, and every Wednesday at noon, we come to you live on every platform: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, ravepubs.com, and youtube.com/ravepubs, where this is our live, the industry's only live TV show, rAVe TV, with Steph Beckett and Gary Kay. We're both at home today.
Yes.
Steph is in her house. I'm in my house. And I'm excited today because we are going to be graced with the presence of Sarah Abrams, who's going to talk about her series that she's been writing for us. We'll get to that in just a second. Mm-hmm. But Steph, how are you doing?
I am good. I went to a Bulls game last night with a few of the girls. We had a good time. I love a game of baseball here and there.
Did we win?
I don't know. We left early.
I knew that was going to be the answer, Steph. I set you up.
But okay, I never go to sports for the sports. I go to sports for the camaraderie, you go to sports so that you can sit and drink a beer with your friends. I never pay attention to any sport I go to.
All right. I don't know if they won either. Someone can check that out for us. But they went to the Durham Bulls, which, of course, is famous because of Bull Durham, the movie, with Kevin Costner. And, of course, it's not the same stadium. They've rebuilt the stadium and have a really nice stadium now as opposed to what they had before. But that old stadium is still there. They use it for, festivals and stuff, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They still use it for a bunch of different stuff. But, yeah, I know.
I remember I ran a race one time, and it started and ended in that stadium.
Yes, and I live walking distance from the new stadium now. So might as well take advantage. Maybe I'll learn something about baseball and start paying attention. We can only hope. Maybe that'll be my goal for this year, learn a sport and learn about it and know it.
Well, I don't know if you had a chance to see, but I posted a Minority Report thing on my LinkedIn last week, and my LinkedIn blew up. I'm going to play a video of how this works. This is in the Delta Airlines terminal, and we'll play it in just a second. I want to stop talking while we're playing it because we have audio for it. But this is in the Delta Airlines terminal in Detroit, and this is a prototype for how they're going to do it in the future. Now, they've set this up intentionally as a proof of concept. So there's some things about it that you would not normally do in the way it would not normally operate. But what I want you to do is see how this works, because basically, to basically set it up for those of you who are AV geeks, imagine a monitor where 100 different people can look at the same monitor, but see 100 different pieces of content. So that's what you're about to see.
This is something new that Delta and a company called Misapplied Sciences have done at the Detroit airport. You scan your boarding pass, and then you look up at the board, and it will show you some
Hopefully we have audio on
about that. There we go. So my flight is to the right, and the cool thing about it is
you can
have up to 100 people inside
down.
this box, and they all see something different on the monitor because it's watching your location, seeing what direction you're looking, and everybody sees something different. Pretty crazy technology. It's from a startup. New version's coming soon, but it's here at the Detroit airport in the Delta terminal. If you want to try it yourself.
Okay, so Steph, here's how this works. This is a company called Misapplied Sciences, and you can see them at misappliedsciences.com. The technology is called alternate reality or something like that, or I'll remember it in just a second. But believe it or not, Sarah and I saw this technology or read an article about this technology 5 or 6 years ago. And they even said that Delta was going to be the first one to use it. I don't know if Sarah will remember. When we bring her on, we'll ask her if she remembers.
She put in the chat that it's parallel reality. That's
parallel reality. There you go, parallel reality. And what it is the technology is such that the imagers on the display point to you and only you. How does that work? It uses geolocation tagging and beacon technology in your phone. So what it's doing is it's following your phone. Now, the example they gave is not how people are going to use it. Some of the comments I got on my LinkedIn was like, well, if you're scanning the thing on your phone, you already know where the gate is, right? That's not how it's going to be. Now, hey, how many times have you forgotten the gate? And by the way, the Delta Airlines app is terrible about giving you the gate. So actually, this is really good for Delta because 99% of the time, it doesn't tell you here. You have to.
Yeah, no, it'll just be like a blank space next to gate.
Exactly.
Like, thank you. That's helpful.
But the idea is that it knows who you are, and y'all have seen this. You go into an airport, and your boarding pass pops up, or lets you know you're at the airport, right? So it knows who you are, and the idea is that every time as you're walking through a terminal and you look up at monitors, the monitor's content changes to just your personalized content, which could, by the way, even be advertising content. So think about that for just a second. But let's go back. So you're in the terminal, the Atlanta airport, and you just look at a monitor and it says, and it knows gate 37, terminal C, go that way. And it has an arrow just pointing to you. The simplification of that and the concept of that is awesome. Second application, obviously, is advertising. It knows that you're a guy and you like stuff for guys, and knows you're a woman, you like stuff for women. It knows you're short, you like stuff for kids. There's some assumptions like that it can make. Speaking of being short, the technology will also send separate messages to adults and kids. So some of the messages that it sends to kids would be stuff like, if you're being abducted, do these things right now, right? Or you're in danger. Do these things right now, and it's only at an angle where kids can see. So there's some pretty cool technology inside of this, and our industry is the display technology leader. So I thought this would be kind of cool for people to see. Yeah. Steph, what do you think?
I don't think it's that weird, because if you're scanning your boarding pass, first, like, of course it's gonna know all the information and everything. Like, it's not like it's picking it up, like facial recognition wise, which I'm sure that's coming too. But, of course it's going to pick up all that information from your boarding pass. So like, that makes sense to me. That's not like super futuristic. The thing that is cool is that it shows you your stuff based on the angle that you're standing. Like, I think that is the cool, like the key part of it. I'll tell you what I think is weirder. I have a theory that, the gas stations that play ads while you're like pumping gas, I think that they play ads based on like who you are and like what your credit card says about you. Because mine is always like celebrity news. Haley never gets celebrity news. Haley's is always about like a cooking show. And then one of my guy friends, his is always about sports. So I think
I hadn't thought about that, but it makes sense. That's the whole thing about digital signage, is personal content, right? And if it has your credit card, it knows who you are and it can make some assumptions. Now, of course, the problem with making those assumptions is that, not everybody identifies the same way as their gender, for example, that they were born with, or not everybody likes sports just because they're a guy, Steph, by the way. Although I'm not surprised that your friends didn't know the score of the game, because I know you're not there for the game. You're there to drink and eat and that kind of stuff because they have good food.
But that's not because that's not because I'm a woman. That's just because of who I am inside.
I know but so there's some assumptions that they're making, but at the same time, it is pretty cool technology, and you're going to see this technology, and you're going to see stuff like this at the DSE show, which is in November, and we have a free code for you, to use, so you can get free entry into the Digital Signage Expo. It's called rAVe Gift. So if you go to the URL on the screen, or what we're posting in all the different locations, you can go to digitalsignageexperience.com or .org, either one. Use our code, register for free. Steph, you'll be there and I'll be there.
Yeah, we will. We will see everybody in Las Vegas times 2 in 2022. Gotta love.
And that's not the only big show we're doing in the fall. We're also doing CEDIA. We're doing CEDIA in a very big way. We're going to make an official announcement of all the things we're doing for CEDIA, because we're handling a lot of stuff for them this year, including 2 live stage presences. And CEDIA just this past week, if you go to ravepubs.com, announced their innovation hub. You want to talk about this for just a second, Steph?
Yeah, sure. So CEDIA has a couple stages, just like every other trade show. And the innovation hub is the one that focuses really on like emerging technologies, and similarly a lot of the stuff that Megan covers over at Launch Code, right? So they just announced that is coming back this year in a really big way. We all know that CEDIA 2021 was a little bit smaller because it was one of our first shows back in person. And so, they're expecting this one to be, a little bit more like Infocom level. Like, we're getting back, and, it might not be as big as it was perhaps in 2019, but, this is very much an important year for them. And I'm excited to see that the Innovation Hub is going to kind of like help mark that coming back. And, as long as like different verticals in our industry continue to converge, I think that it's important that they continue to cover these emerging technologies. They're going to get, increasingly important as we keep putting offices inside our houses, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is that, this is the place to go for residential technology. They're not Infocom. Infocom's commercial technology. This is residential technology. Two totally different shows, not competitive. They're complementary. In fact, CEDIA and Infocom work together on the ISE show. But ultimately, this is the high-end residential show. It's like, house toys, for lack of a better term, stuff that we all wish we could afford. Speaking of stuff we wish we could all afford, our industry is filled with really cool toys and technologies, and some of the coolest stuff is coming from Legrand. And I loved their new screen without the black space at the top.
Oh yeah,
it looks like that's sort of hovering in spaces. And Legrand's come out with some really cool stuff. And hey, let's meet the team, because Legrand is more than just one company.
Hello and welcome to Talkin' Tech with Tad and Tam.
That's Tad.
And that's Tammy, and we love Talkin' Tech.
Now, as you know, we were once just a simple little show being run out of our attic.
Or at Tech. Hello!
Anyway, but now, as of today, we have officially hit 2 million subscribers!
If you haven't already, smash that like button and subscribe.
Now, we have hit the big time. And with the big time comes big time tech teams like the one we have with us today.
That's right. They handle your every need. Let's meet the Tiled Solution Services team from Chief.
I talked to her on the phone. She gave me quotes and
Hey,
stuff.
all right, we are back. We are back live, and I'm excited that Legrand is continuing to be a sponsor in year 2 of rAVe TV, our live TV show, along with Shore. We'll get to Shore in just a moment. But Steph, look at our special guest on the screen, back live and in person. Sarah Abrams. Sarah, how are you?
I am really good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. You always have the greatest camera, the greatest lighting, and the most amazing smile. So it's great to have you on, Sarah.
Thanks. At the beginning of the pandemic, when I was at home all the time, I was like, if Twitch video streamer Pro 13 can figure out how to have awesome video cameras, I can figure it out.
Yes,
so,
you told me that too.
DSLR, all these things. I was helping on it.
when you were helping me on it, and I was like, I just don't know how to do this, and you were like, if these little Twitch people can figure it out, so can you, and so can I. And I was like, yeah, fair enough.
Little Twitch people, that little Twitch people is a $200 billion industry, by the way.
That was my embellishment.
I just know they're 13. I mean, they do make $10 million, but.
Yeah, exactly, for winning a tournament. But Steph, you've been running a series of articles that Sarah wrote up about her observations, having looked at over 2,000 videos. So I'm going to let you take this interview with Sarah.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, Sarah, so tell me, this was a very different job for you, because at ISE and Infocom, you did not come to the show floor with us, but you had a really important job in that you were head of video titling, which is a really big thing for us, because everyone knows that's what we're known for at shows. We post a ton of product videos, and you were in charge of titling them, which meant you also watched all of them. So that's different than your normal job. What was that like?
Well, it was kind of different. I did this at the previous shows. I just did a million other things and was also on site. So
that's true.
This was different in that, since I had the opportunity, I watched all of them because it gave me so much interesting context. I mean, it's not nearly as fun of a way to attend a trade show. I definitely had FOMO. Yeah. I remember reading on Twitter after ISE that everyone's like, did you even see the technology on the show? Because I was just drinking with friends and catching up because we haven't seen each other in years. I did the opposite. I did not see anyone, talk to anyone, which was a bummer. But yeah, I watched many videos from both shows. There was a lot of overlap, but I mean, it was an interesting way to see trends, to get a quick update on, or like see a snapshot of the industry of where things stand at that particular moment.
Yeah.
It was
So we broke
interesting
it up.
after 2 years of people not really meeting in person.
Yes. So we broke it up into 2 articles, right? Because you like wrote it and you were like, this is 4,000 words. We should probably break this up a little bit. So we did a part 1 and a part 2, and I can share part 2 a little bit on the screen now so everyone can see it. But both of the parts live on ravepubs.com. If you just click on Blog Squad, click on Sarah's name, you can find them. But tell me, like, what was, in your opinion, like the most important trend you noticed, or a couple trends? From like watching all of these?
Well, important is different than obvious, I guess. I will start with what is most obvious, which was trends in UCC. That was the whole first article, because there were just so many things that had changed, so many companies that have grown tremendously in size in the last years because of the pandemic and work from home and the advent of video conferencing, hybrid, high flex teaching. So like one interesting thing, which I'm sure everyone noticed who was there, was how many more products there were for people to use in their homes on the commercial side, which is weird because we've seen that for years at CEDIA, residential kind of tchotchke stuff, even like stuff you don't have to buy through dealers. Obviously, everything at CEDIA is for home, but yeah, like more consumer products. So, but for the first time, we saw on the commercial side kind of consumer products, but that are meant to extend enterprise level UCC solutions to people's homes, because really important members of teams were working remotely, if not most of them. So you had everything from like broadcast quality kits that you could set up in a home office for professional presenting, teaching, or just presenting, like if you're a high-end salesperson. And then, a lot of devices geared towards those people, all in one, like displays just for video conferencing. So you can leave your computer and all of that on the side and then have a completely dedicated device, including the display, that was just for video conferencing, which is kind of a funny product to me. It feels like it should be targeted towards like grandparents or very high level AV executives who are really busy, or not AV executives, but executives who are really busy and like want that separate from their main computer and devices.
Yeah, I agree. Like something else that you talked about that I like feel like is just important to mention is like all the software-based AV solutions that started kind of popping up in the past year. And, you know, you talked about that a lot of this was like spurred because, you know, there's like a semiconductor shortage, and that's going to affect like being able to get the right hardware for everything. But there are a few different reasons why this is becoming such a trend right now, and it's only going to continue. So I thought that was important to mention as well.
Yeah, that doesn't fall as much under the UCC. It was in the second part of the article, but that was probably, I mean, it makes sense why it's happening now, like you said, because there's supply chain shortages. There's also labor shortages. So anything that allows for offsite support, management, or even installation is very appealing to a lot of people. So, you know, software has kind of been trickling into the industry over the years, but a lot of it was just sort of like supporting type products. A lot of it was even free. It came with hardware, and we saw some more of that here, especially remote management softwares. But this was the first time that I saw traditional AV problems that have always been solved via hardware that can now be solved via software. One that really surprised me was that Crestron has a software-based product version of its digital media system. And then also, since Autonate's Dante, which is extremely popular now and integrated into a ton of manufacturers' products, but there was a big shortage on the semiconductors used for those products. They were like, how can we avoid this from happening again? They redesigned the product so some hardware solutions could be configured differently with different products that were available or components that were available. But they also, released software that did at least part of what the Dante hardware products do. And that was interesting. I mean, I can envision a potential future in which AV is way more similar to the IT industry than we might have ever imagined. Like a lot of the problems are solved via software, and you have network switches, and of course you have like things dangling off the network, monitors, projectors, etc., displays. Yep. But yeah, you have software doing the control, the processing, and all of the things we normally.
Well, if you look at like AV over IP, Sarah, think about how substantial that is in what you're talking about, because once the signal's on the network, you can do whatever you want with it, right? Technically, if we do it through the internet protocols, IP, and follow those protocols, we can pull it off on a browser. We can mix it together. We can mix audio and video together. We can put it all on the screen at the same time, put it on the screen one at a time. We can tile it. We can layer it on top of each other. We can send it anywhere in the world. And these are all things that used to be only hardware devices that did that. Matrix switchers, video wall processors, and all, and encoding and decoding and video interfaces and cable, lots of cable, but now it's on the network. I definitely agree with you. I think that we're going to see a lot more software. And I think a good example of that is in part 2, Steph. Towards the bottom of part 2, she showed the video of Sony's REAC 1000 product, which is known as the Edge, because that product, people order it as one thing. People order it as like a green screen replacement box, Sarah, or they'll order it as a overlay product, but it does 5 things. You just have to activate each feature with a software license. So you have this hardware box, and by the way, Sony could add more features to it, right? They just have to turn those features on or reconfigure. It's like a computer, and you just can kind of add any features that you want to it. I think that product might be a metaphor for what we might see coming. I don't know what you think about that product, Sarah, or what you think about that concept.
That's exactly right. Like, you could see a future where all the hardware devices are like the Sony REAC. So you have network switches, and you have like processing devices like that are much broader in their application abilities. So I think you're totally right that is like an example of the future. But it's also like, it makes sense, or it kind of demonstrates the problem for the industry that software-based products presents as it exists now, which is that the sales model is drastically different. And there's a lot of appealing things about it, like it's less labor intensive on the install and maintenance side. But on the software industry side of like IT, the main model you see now is software as a service, where you have recurring subscription fees, and things are just continuously updated, and you have armies of software engineers, and they have releases daily or weekly or monthly or whatever. Yep. And that,
like iPhone. The iPhone's a good example of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the iPhone is basically a computer. They update it with marginal hardware increases and like better cameras and also better semiconductors inside that are faster, but it's still a computer, and that is just marginally getting to be a better.
Yeah, I mean, you think about that as a metaphor. Like, who buys a flashlight anymore? Like, is something as stupid like, I mean, if you're in the business of needing a flashlight, that's one thing, but everyone just uses their phone. Who'd have thought the phone, of all things, would replace the flashlight? That's a metaphor for like where we're going with all this. It's like, unless you really have an open mind, you don't realize where we're going.
Like commoditization, do you think?
I think I think we'll see a bigger crossover because some of the technology inside of these set-top boxes that we're using at home is the exact same thing as the technology inside of a digital media player from a digital signage system. And I think what we'll see is those boxes replacing sitting around in distribution in the ceiling at where projectors are and monitors are, and that just the content coming into it is just a network signal. I love the pieces. Sarah wrote part 1 and part 2. Both of them are on our website. The part 2 is trending right now as our #1 article on ravepubs.com. Just go to ravepubs.com, look in the top left-hand corner. You'll see it. It's also in the featured slider on the website. Sarah, I appreciate you joining us today and coming in and talking about this.
Thanks so much for having me.
You.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. And we're quickly going to go to a message from our sponsor, Shure. And we'll come back and talk to you about the rest of the day, the news that we have for the day.
We've seen nothing less than volatility in the stock market over the past 12 months. We should certainly be bracing ourselves for more of the same. Based on what we've learned from history, it would be a good idea for our investors to look to hold tight.
So, I have 2 apples in my basket, and I say to Mr. Jumble, can I have 1 of yours? How many apples do you think I...
Excuse me, can I have your attention, please?
So, how many apples do you think I'll have if I take 1?
Hi, Grandma. Hi, Granddad.
Hello, darling. How are you?
Don't forget to plug in your mic.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loads better.
Who are you waving at?
Oh, it's just our neighbour.
Sorry I'm late. As I was saying, the compelling opportunities in the stock market have the potential for a solid year of returns, which would be consistent with the second year of a bull market.
All right, so cool. Listen, you got to go read the articles. Sarah did a phenomenal job. I mean, she literally sat and watched over 2,000 videos, which means that there's no one who's more of an expert on the videos we shot at Infocom and at ISE than Sarah Abrams. And of course, Sarah Abrams is synonymous with rAVe. So definitely read it.
Yes, and like she was saying, her first part 1 definitely focuses more on like the UCC trends, and then part 2 is more of a focus on like AV over IP, software-based AV. So read them both. Read whichever one you want to read first. But they're very, very good. Like just general pieces that talk about, hey, these are some important trends I noticed. You're going to see more of this.
Yeah, and speaking of Infocom, most companies cut back their booth size, not LG. LG had one of the biggest booths at Infocom, and I actually wrote a piece documenting exactly, sort of giving you a tour of their booth through 14 videos where I prefaced each video with my impressions of why you should watch that video and why it's important and what piece of, they showed, for example, Steph, they introduced 2 robots. And people were like, why are we showing robots at the show? But then once you went through the demo and you saw what they were doing with those robots, you're like, well, holy mackerel, we should be selling these, because the same people who are making decisions on digital signage displays and lobbies are the same people making decisions on who's going to work the front desk in a company. Yeah. Why not have a robot do it? So, it's worth reading that piece. I want to also draw your attention to a new product from MaxHub. They've introduced a 165-inch version of their 220-inch product. Their 220-inch product is 8K. Yes. 4K. This one's 2K or 1080. It's an all-in-one. Plug in an HDMI cable, just works. It's perfect for meeting rooms, classrooms. So if you just need to replace a projector with a giant LED, we're getting close to that crossover. Sarah and I talked about this 5 years ago. When would that happen? We both thought it'd be within 10 years. We're about halfway there. I think we're on course for that. Aver, one of our favorite companies out there, makes some awesome PTZ cameras. Now, almost all Aver cameras are NDI capable. Especially in the education market, that's going to be critical because that control protocol means it's going to work everywhere, and it means you can control it. It means you can do some really cool things. And if you get NDI devices to talk together, for example, microphone can find the person and point the camera there. And then finally, there's a great column on our website from Mark Coxon I want you to read about, is it native 4K or not? A lot of brands are saying 4K, but you read inside the specs and it's actually not 4K. What they mean is 4K compatible, but do we need 4K? And how far are we in 4K? And what's the development? When do we need 8K? Those kinds of things. Mark's always funny. He's always he's got a
that's
meme
not
in his
how
article.
this
He's the only one that
works.
puts a meme in his articles.
Yeah, he does. I feel like he and I are very like meme adjacent people when we.
Yeah,
write.
you definitely, and you also have to teach. So Sarah used to be my go-to as to like, what the hell are they talking about here, right? Because she was younger than me, and I was lost. Now I have to go to Steph because so many things have memes attached to them, and you're the meme queen.
Yes, I would say so. Some people in the office, like even people younger than me, they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "That's Twitter. Just don't. If you're not on Twitter, just don't worry about it. It's gonna take me too long to explain it." But yes, so case study of the week, really quick. Roden Schwartz. So they played a role. This is about the Tour de France. So basically, this is being broadcast over, like, this is being done by 5G broadcast, which is this like a new concept? This is like a newer concept, right, Gary?
Well, we don't have 5G rolled out totally in the United States yet. We only have it in like 5 or 6 major cities. Vegas had it, but I only got it in a very short area between the airport and the hotel. But,
I think I had it for like 10 minutes somewhere.
Yeah, and there is 5G in Atlanta. There's 5G in parts of Charlotte. There's 5G in parts of New York, parts of Chicago, parts of LA. But we don't have it nationally. But Europe, they do have it rolled out in much larger areas. Well, basically, instead of building a huge network and having to make sure Wi-Fi worked everywhere and make sure all the devices are connected together, they did everything through 5G. And
I think they had
substantial.
I think they had maybe 2 broadcasts where one was regular and one was 5G broadcast, because they offered like specially tailored content on the 5G broadcast, which I think is cool.
Which would be great for mobile users, right? I mean, for people that are mobile, and I think it was again proof of concept. I think it's proof of concept of looking at the future.
Streaming it this way allowed the broadcasters to retain the transmission rights, because it wasn't like streamed over large numbers of one-to-one connections. So they like broadcasting to they could broadcast to devices that didn't even need a SIM to like receive it. So it's very cool, very like futuristic, where I feel like the theme of this show has been like, ooh, Minority Report, future, crazy.
We started it with Minority Report and we're ending it with reality. So look, thanks for joining us. As Gary K and
Steph Beckett, sorry.
And we're coming to you live every Wednesday at noon on all 5 ways to get us: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, ravepubs.com, and youtube.com/ravepubs. Thanks for joining us. Join us next Wednesday, and we're out of here.
It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's Rave TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.